have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait till next year we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was me and Rank. I mean, how do you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast.
Welcome to the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast. Today we are playing a little bit of 4 or 5 squares here, moving the board around a little bit to make sure we get Chris Towers and his cat.
Can you hear her?
What's her name?
This is David Bowie.
Nice.
And Liz Lemon is sleeping off to the side because she's the good one. David Bowie always wants to get in the way of everything. But you know, she's good. She's going to try to bite me at some point. So stay tuned for that.
You know, that's the entertainment that we're here for. We are here for that.
Yeah, it's I gesticulate a lot when I'm talking, and eventually she will just grab my hand. It's really fun. This is like an almost nightly occurrence on our fantasy baseball podcast. I'll have to kick her out of the room some nights. She's just too. Come here.
So, Calvin, I don't know if you've quite figured this out here yet, but we're really trying to push this bald guy, bearded guy thing going forward. So, you know, we're kind of expecting you to shave the head and grow the beard here for the next show. We got Chris and his mighty beard going on there, the nice clean top. Major's got the nice clean top there as well.
They gotta join
Good
you
luck.
guys.
I'm with Tara. Me and Tara, we're just, you know,
We're gonna you guys you can keep us off to the right,
yeah,
and we'll just stay
you
by
guys
ourselves.
stay over there.
So, as many of you know, we talk a little bit of football only because we are contractually obligated to do so. Not much has happened today. Some quarterback from Kent State decided to call her quits there and retire from the New England Patriots. Chris, just some quick thoughts here. Like when I first heard he was retiring, I thought, is he retiring or is he retiring to Tampa Bay? What were your thoughts?
I kind of earnestly hope he is retiring because I feel like at this point Julian Edelman probably shouldn't be playing professional football anymore. Like he's 35 years old, I think. He's had a bunch of concussions. He's had a bunch of broken bones. He's, he couldn't come back from that knee issue last season. I kind of think at this point his body's been telling him to quit. And I hope that's what happens. You know, he's had a very good career. One of the most productive postseason players of all time. Not a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Apparently that's controversial. But a hell of a career, and you know, one of the key players for the greatest dynasty in the history of football. So, you know, nothing to feel like he left on the field there.
I'm glad you mentioned the Hall of Fame resume right off the get-go because we will hear about that over the next 6 months on Fantasy Football Twitter. We're guaranteed to hear. There's going to be some sort of debate here and there. For honestly, me, myself, Edelman's not a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, either.
I mean, I just like the thing that's really weird to me is like the Patriots had during this run a better version of Julian Edelman and Wes Welker. Like they played similar roles. They were that slot receiver who found open holes in the, in the coverage, and you know they were Brady's safety blanket basically. And like Wes Welker was a lot more productive in that role. He was a lot better player for his career. I know, you know, Julian Edelman is second all time in postseason catches, which like he was really good in the postseason, but he also made the postseason a lot. You know, Andy Pettit is first all time in MLB and wins in the postseason. I don't think anybody's arguing that Andy Pettit was, should be a slam dunk Hall of Famer. I think there are people who think he should be in, but he's not going to get in. And, you know, I like the Andy Pettit comp because there's something else they share in common, which is, you know, there are two players we don't really like to bring this up, but both have PED histories. Julian Edelman was suspended for PEDs. Andy Pettit was never actually suspended, but he was, he made his famous apology and everyone just kind of forgot about it because he's a nice guy. So yeah, great career, no doubt about it. But he doesn't have to be in the Hall of Fame. It's okay. We can celebrate his career. What a great and unique player. What an amazing story he was, becoming this productive wide receiver as an option quarterback in college as a 7th round pick. Amazing career, but he doesn't have to be in the Hall of Fame for us to recognize that he had a great career. So,
right.
I hope this isn't actually a thing that we're going to have to talk about for a long time.
Yeah, I might just mute those words on Twitter so I don't have to see them. But, speaking of Hall of Famers, I mean, a guy clearly destined for the Hall of Fame at this point, certainly for an AL MVP, and your version of the best player in Major League Baseball right now, Byron Buxton, is off to a hot start. And I don't get to talk about baseball very much on this show, so I'm excited to have someone who does like to talk about baseball. Exciting start to the season, right? I mean, we've had a no-hitter. Byron Buxton is being the player that we thought he could be. I mean, there's a lot of cool things going on.
Yeah, it's such a weird time for Major League Baseball because there's also this doesn't really happen in football. The NFL doesn't introduce a new football that radically changes the way the game's played. Like MLB has done this. This seems to be the first time they've done it on purpose, where they released a statement before the season saying, we have a new ball that we're, manufacturing. It's a little lighter. The seams are a little higher. We expect the ball will travel less when it's thrown. It would be like the NFL saying, all right, we're going with one fewer lace this year. And then we're going to put 2 laces the next year. And it just it's this weird, it fundamentally alters the way the game is played. So in addition to, no hitter, Byron Buxton's been amazing. Shohei Otani has, I think he's the 2nd hardest throwing pitcher in baseball, and he's hit the hardest hit ball in the majors, which is incredible. We also have 2 weeks into the season, we're trying to figure out what does baseball actually look like right now? Literally, what is the game being played? See, there you go. She bit me.
Too nice.
So you have strikeout rates are way up overall, and so there's all these pitchers who are throwing huge strikeout games, and it's is this because of the ball? It's really weird, but it's been fun to talk about so far and fun to watch. I went to a Mets Marlins game last night or yesterday afternoon. I saw 9 pitches before it was delayed by rain. So sometime in August, I'll see the rest of that game.
I don't even know what you're saying right now. I'm so fascinated by the cat. She's like a star.
It's so weird because we've had her for almost 3 years now, I think. And she was a stray cat that my wife found outside of her office in Florida back when we lived there. And she's always been very skittish around us. She's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out on us. If I move too quickly, she will run away. She sleeps in our bed, but if one of us moves our legs, she's gone. But then she does this. And she wants attention. She wants pets. She wants affection. And if I don't give it to her, she will bite me. So,
nice. Yeah, but going back to the ball thing, it's kind of like if the NFL would deflate the balls to help quarterbacks grip them. It's almost like that, right?
Yeah, except the NFL, they have a range that they're allowed to use, and in Major League Baseball, everyone's supposed to be using the same baseball, and so we've seen historic home run numbers in recent years. 2019 especially was, I think, the most home runs ever hit. The Minnesota Twins hit the most home runs ever. I think the Yankees hit the 2nd most home runs ever in the 120, 130 year history of the major leagues. And partially it's because it changes to the way players are playing, which we see in the NFL. There's, a shift to more spread offenses and fewer guys getting 180 targets and, just the ball being spread around more often, more wide receivers on the field. Maybe we're seeing in this draft, the start of a trend to more smaller wide receivers, although I know that's a very controversial topic within the NFL fantasy community. But the MLB has these structural changes that impact every single play in ways that we don't really know going into the season. It's a bizarre part of talking and writing about fantasy baseball at this point.
Well, we just finished up like week 1, and Mike Trout basically already has 1 WAR, which is crazy. And he's the best player in baseball. It's amazing. But you mentioned his teammate there, and like it's like having a guy who is like the best quarterback, or like really good quarterback, and also he's a really good like safety or something.
Yeah.
Like it's just the way Shohei Otani plays is so fascinating to me, and what he's capable of doing. He can hit a ball 500 feet. He can throw it 100 miles an hour. And, oh, by the way, like 30 feet per second sprint speed.
Yeah, he's just like a different kind of athlete. He's just a complete, once in a lifetime. Like, we're not even talking like Madison Bumgarner's the pitcher that everyone uses is like, oh, man, pitchers can hit. And Madison Bumgarner has like a 670 career OPS. He's got like 6 home runs or something. And like, Dontrelle Willis is the best hitting pitcher, I think, of the last 50 years, at least, if you go by OPS. And I think he just goes over 700, which means he was a below average hitter for most of his career. Shohei Otani has been one of the 20 best hitters in baseball since making his major league debut. And when he's healthy, I think he's one of the 20 best pitchers as well. It's legitimately unprecedented. The last time you can find someone who did that for even a season, like was a very good pitcher and hitter, you have to go back to like the years when most major league players weren't playing because of World War II. Like that's the last one. Like you had minor leaguers getting called up, and you had a couple of guys playing both ways. That's the last time, and that's just because we needed guys to play. So it's hard to overstate how historic a player he is, and I just hope he can stay healthy.
So I'm glad you mentioned you were at the Mets and Marlins game, because I was trying to figure this out. You said you saw 9 pitches. What did you manage to do with those 9 pitches?
It's amazing. My wife said she didn't see the resemblance there, or she said like, "Oh, you guys kind of look alike," and I was like, "We're the same person."
I would say it's the same person.
Yeah, I mean, because it's like the eyes are similar, the faces. We've both got like full cheeks, big beards, bald. You can't tell on that one, but we're both bald.
And the thing is, you got that look in the eye. It's the look in the eye. You know what I'm saying?
Intensity.
Yeah, that's Mets utility player Luis Guillorme, who.
I am so glad you said his name. I was doing everything in my power not to say his name.
Yeah. He. I think probably the most noteworthy thing he's done in the majors, he had a 24 pitch at bat, I think, earlier this season. I think the first or second, or maybe it was in spring training.
It was in spring training. John Boy's breakdown of that was amazing. If anybody
it was
Google that.
The first hitter that Jordan Hicks had faced in like 2 years was a 24 pitch at bat. So he made his return from Tommy John surgery, faced one batter, and had to come out of the game.
Have you guys ever been seen in the same place at the same time?
No, we have not. So, I mean, maybe we'll run into each other. We both live in New York now, so maybe that'll happen. But I don't want there to be like some kind of quantum tunnel as a result of it. I don't want, maybe we're not supposed to see each other.
Exactly.
So I think we have now officially reached our quota of football / and this time we get some baseball talk in there, which is great. And it's time to get to know Chris Towers a little bit better. So we've got some questions. I'm going to warm you up a little bit. We've got kind of and sometimes we say like if you were a WWE wrestler, but maybe if you were a closer in baseball and you were coming out for the 9th inning and the announcer, announces you're coming in, the music hits that's going to introduce you to the crowd perfectly. What is that intro music?
I am a person, I spend way too much time talking about music, listening to music, and I don't really have a good answer for this. So I would just go with like a song that I really like. So like something by Carly Rae Jepsen or Taylor Swift, probably. Maybe like, Call Me Maybe. It's a perfect song. So I'll just put that in there. Because that'd be like a good one for a closer. Like, call me maybe from the bullpen.
Maybe.
It would be a good one for like a mediocre closer, and I think I would be a mediocre closer. I don't think I'd be a particularly good one. So I think that works.
Show us how it sounds, the remix.
Oh no, we're going with the classic. We're going with the classic strings, Carly's voice. Nothing but Carly. I can't disrespect a legend like that. I'm not going to sing her song.
And this is why this show is so great. So we've got all kinds of touches. I'm Canadian. You got Carly Rae, who's a Canadian singer, and her emotion. I actually seen you break that song down at one point too. One of your previous interviews, talk about emotion with a couple of stars or asterisks. I don't know. I'm not a big. I can't admit to that. But and then of course Calvin and Hobby just off to the other side there, and boom, you got the Calvin and Hobby going on there. So
yeah,
we'll kind of tie everything together in a nice little bow. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm glad I could do that. Yeah, that was my first tattoo. I got my second one last weekend on a bit of a whim. My wife was out of town. I went to the Yankees game last Saturday and had a couple beers and was riding my bike home from the subway, which I probably shouldn't have been doing after having a couple beers. And then I rode past my tattoo shop and I was like, I'm gonna get a tattoo today, and got little Phantom Toll Booth, my guy Talk, and Milo.
Nice.
So my two favorite books as a child, Calvin and Hobbes and Phantom Toll Booth there.
I definitely appreciate you getting that first one for me. I know it was your favorite, but I appreciate you honoring me in that way.
I had to get it for you.
So one of the things that you've lived in Florida, you live in New York now. You kind of said that, but Florida's very unique. And one of the things we want to type into is today's August 12th. And we're playing the Florida Man game. So April 12th, Florida Man. Let's see what comes up and see if you've seen this in your time. So, okay. So half naked Florida Man wearing underwear. Hang on. I'm loading it up. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for these kind of searches. Half naked Florida man wearing underwear marked breathalyzer blow here. Arrested for DUI is what comes up on April 12th, Florida man. Have you seen this in Florida or New York? Let's give New York a little love too.
I haven't seen that one specifically, but Florida is a wild place. I've certainly seen people running around in just their underwear. Sometimes actually to bring it back to the Canadians, one thing you see a lot in the winter in Florida when you live, like I lived in Hollywood, Florida, which is used to be like a big beach town. And if you go to the beach during the winter, it's just like older Canadian people and they're all just wearing Speedos. So it's kind of the same thing. And it's like, I know it's warm. It's like 65, 70 degrees in some days during the winter, which is warm. I live in New York now. It was 62 degrees the other day and I wore shorts and a t-shirt, which, was a little ambitious, but I had to do it. But like, if you live in South Florida, 60 degrees is freezing. Nobody nobody even looks at water when it's 60 degrees in South Florida, but you've got all the people from Quebec.
If it's above zero, we're wearing a Speedo, man. If it's sorry, let me rephrase that. If it's above freezing, we're wearing a Speedo because the Celsius and the Fahrenheit gets all thrown out.
That's true.
So someone toss another date at me here.
I do want to point out this to defend Florida just a little bit. It's a wild place. It's a lawless hellscape, but Florida Man is actually a relic of Florida's very robust open records laws. I think people don't realize. They think, oh, Florida's just crazy. There's so many people. And it's actually just because every arrest is published in Florida. You can pick up, there used to be free magazines that you could pick up at the gas station that just had like every mugshot from the previous week in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. So that is something I always point out when the topic of Florida Man comes up, is it's actually because of the sunshine laws, which I learned about in journalism school. So that's your not so fun fact that maybe ruins Florida Man for you.
It kind of does.
Game. I'm like, no, I don't want to play.
Arizona has the same thing. That's why like Florida and Arizona are two, like the two states that everyone's like, wow, things are just crazy. And it's just actually that they just have really, really good public records laws.
It ruins it a little bit. Like, I got to be honest. Like, that takes it
He
away
said
from
no,
me.
also wanna play.
I mean, look, I'm not saying those things only don't happen in Florida. They clearly do. I'm just saying there's a wonderful breadth of experience around the world. And I think there's a little Florida man in every state is really the takeaway there.
Yeah, is it? Let's do his birthday. Chris, what's your birthday?
July 4th.
July 4th.
Oh
Let's see.
boy, that's just gonna leave all kinds.
I mean, anytime there's Florida men drinking, you're going to have good ones.
Nice.
Let's see here what we could pull up here. Exactly.
Also, the commenter who just shouted out Ricky's wings in Hollywood. Love Ricky's. Excellent wings.
See, this isn't so bad. Florida man shows up for 4th of July parade with a 10-foot mechanical marijuana joint.
Oh, that sounds like a good time. That's nothing but a good time right there.
He sounds innovative.
I wonder which parade, and I wonder if they allowed him to be a part of the parade. I hope he didn't get arrested for it. That would be a shame. There's nothing illegal about having a giant mechanical marijuana cigarette. Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Now, if it wasn't mechanical, maybe, but
Let's switch it back to some football, man. Or sports. Sports is important to all of us growing up. Did you play any sports? If you did, what sports did you play?
actually the only sport I played organized was hockey, which is weird living in South Florida. I played a lot of roller hockey and then a little bit of ice hockey before it got very expensive once you start playing ice hockey. But yeah, that was the only sport I played like as an official league. I guess I might have played basketball a little bit as a kid, but yeah, that was the only one that I played for like more than a year or two was hockey. I probably played for like a decade.
So what were your favorite teams growing up? Like football, basketball, baseball?
All of the South Florida teams for the most part. I was a huge Florida Marlins fan, huge Miami Heat fan, Dolphins fan, never quite as much as the other two. Florida Panthers were big. You know, I was 9 or 10 when they made the Stanley Cup, so that was a big part of why I wanted to play hockey. The only thing was, what was that?
Was that 1990? No,
97,
6, right?
97, 96, 97 season. Yeah, year of the rat.
Year of the rat.
When everyone would bring plastic rats to the arena and throw them on the ice every time there was a goal scored, causing a several-minute delay. That was really fun. They had like a rebirth of the Year of the Rat a couple years ago that was also very fun. I never rooted for the college teams in South Florida, specifically UM, but also like a lot of UF fans, a lot of FSU fans. I never rooted for any of those. I actually hated UM growing up, just kind of to be a contrarian. I don't really know why. It was just I didn't like UM. I rooted against it. It might have been because I went to the 94 national championship game with a bunch of Nebraska fans and they were rooting against UM. So I think it was just, I was just there with them, like family friends. And I still, that is probably the thing from my childhood sports fandom that I've carried with me the most is just really, really disliking UM. I will always root against them. I went to Florida International University, which is the bigger school in Miami, I will point out. Nobody really knows about it. We got T.Y. Hilton. We got a couple other players. It's the real University of Miami. All right, University of Miami. That's the University of Coral Gables. All right, they're in their little like fancy community. You know, you can't park your pickup truck on the street in Coral Gables. That's UM. They're fancy. That's all the rich kids from like the Northeast who can't get into a good school go to UM. You know,
all people of Twitter, these are the thoughts and solely of Chris Towers. Please DM him.
Yep, come after me. Come after me. It's fine.
But your team's rising up in the football world.
We've made a couple of bowl games. We beat UM in 2019. That was just an incredible. That was an amazing night. That was so much fun. What was that?
Everyone beat UM in 2000. Like,
I mean, look. We've always had. There's definitely a little brother syndrome with FIU. I mean, actually, frankly, if you go to FIU, there's like a 90% chance you're a UM fan. So the few of us who actually do care about FIU football, there's definitely like an annoying little brother, like being mad that the big brother gets everything. So winning that game was just a ton of fun. I tried to go to an FIU watch party in New York. It was hosted by the Alumni Association, and I was the only person there. I was the only person who showed up. But I bet if they had known we were going to win, they might have shown up. So they're lost.
So what's bigger for you, an FIU a win over Miami, or outperforming the likes of Eisenberg and Richard and Cummings in a draft-like setting, like a combine? Get a CBS fantasy draft combine going on. Pull out the 40, pull out the bench. Who's going to shine?
So I'm not, in great shape, but I am 10 years younger than everyone else at least. So I feel like at least in some of the events, that was the cat biting me again. I've got an edge in at least some of the events. I would think Heath would probably perform better. Like his spark score would be the highest out of all of us, I would think. Maybe like a second percentile speed score, second, first percentile burst score, but maybe a little higher than everyone else. I think that's probably what you're looking at.
No love for Dave here, eh?
I feel like Dave might get the bench reps. He might have the most bench reps. I can give him that.
I was going to ask you how many of you guys actually get the 225 up one time?
Oh, I'll say for sure not me. I don't know. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know for a fact not me. I know Heath. Heath's more of a runner. He does like plyometrics or whatever. I think he's doing like yoga and stretching more than lifting. So
meditation. He told us meditation.
I feel a little bad. I inadvertently led to Heath getting injured once because Heath's a big guy. He's like 6'2", and a couple of years ago, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago now, he told us he could dunk. And I was like, there's no way you can dunk. Like, you're 38 years old or whatever. There's no way you'll be able to dunk. And so we bet. It was a $150 bet. We gave him 6 months to train. And I was starting to get a little nervous because like he was apparently like dunking a tennis ball at one point, which like that's way better than I can get. Right. I can barely touch the net. But then he like injured his like adductor muscle or something and had to quit like 2 months early and just gave me the cash. So felt a little bad that I led to him getting injured.
See, we needed to have Chris on before Heath, so we could have brought this up as like a slam dunk champion or something. They think we missed an opportunity there.
Yeah, I think the important thing is just know your limitations. I know I'm not putting up a bar. I know I'm not, I could maybe hit a jumper. It's been a few months, probably a year. But I know I'm not dunking. You got to know what you can and can't do. You got to be comfortable in your own body.
Yeah. So you mentioned playing hockey and the Florida Panthers and all of that. Like, do you remember your first fantasy football league? Do you remember, or not just fantasy football, but fantasy anything? Like, was it fantasy hockey? Was it fantasy baseball? What was your first fantasy experience?
I think it must have been like a fantasy hockey on like Yahoo back when they did like the salary fantasy leagues where you weren't really playing against anyone specific. You just like drafted players based on their real life salaries. My first like real fantasy league, I definitely remember because I still play in it. We've been playing in this league for 20 years now. It was a league that my dad joined with a bunch of his friends. We've actually been playing on CBS since 2000 or maybe 99 even. And we're still going. I won last year finally for the first time since 2006, which is a little embarrassing. And yeah, I took over. Basically, my dad joined the league, doesn't really follow sports at all. So he like brought me in and was like, "Hey, do you want to help out?" And I think by like week 3, it was pretty much my team. I don't even think he might have shown up to the draft next year, but it was pretty much my team from that point on.
So do you remember your first fantasy league? Like, what was the sport? Who invited you? When did you start off?
So that was that one with the it's like close family friends, like basically family at this point. One of them was the best man at my wedding. And so it was like, my big brothers and uncles basically. I wonder, I might be able to like actually find it. I remember like drafting Jerry Rice because this must have been 99. So yeah, we're going back that far. I know. I'm pretty sure we had Jerry Rice on that team. I can't remember anything else. I'm going to see if I can find the roster for that team because we should have it.
Is that going back like on CBS? You can actually go back to all these previous leagues.
This one only goes back to 2002. We must have played. We must not have had the league history carry over. 2002, I went 10-6. I was the points leader that season. Had the most points. Did not win the championship. I remember distinctly, but that's pretty good. I was only 13 or 14 that year, so I think that's pretty good.
Not bad.
I love how you can just pull that up. I wish I had my stats and everything. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
I just remember.
Not to not to shill, but it's a great thing about CBS fantasy leagues is you can find all your stuff. I'm looking at. I've never finished lower than 8th out of 10 teams, so that's pretty good. I've got 3 wins, apparently. I don't remember winning in 2016, but maybe I did. That'd be nice.
The company man, he threw the promo in there. That's good.
That's how we set it up, man. That's how we set it up.
Man, I like it.
Yeah,
that's how a professional does it right there.
2016, I was first place in regular season, but did not win.
No.
You hate to see it.
So what's your current favorite league? Is it a dynasty team, redraft?
I've probably got 3 they're all keeper leagues, or 2 of them are keeper leagues, and it's this one that we've been playing, for 20 years, and then my 2 leagues with my college friends. So we've got one is a bunch of people who worked at the college newspaper with me at FIU. The Socios League, it's a 14-team keeper with some like dynasty-ish elements. We've got like a rookie draft, and you can keep the rookies for an extra year. I think I have 6 of the 14 first-round picks in that draft this year in the rookie draft.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that because I might actually have too many keepers/rookie picks in that league. So I'm going to have to start making some trades, and everyone knows I need to. So that'll be fun. The Socios League, that's what we call that one. And then my favorite one in terms of the name, at least, is the Bone Dome League, which is that was what our house in college was called because my friend Travis ordered a pizza the night we moved in. Domino's asks you to put a nickname for your house, and he put the Bone Dome, and that stuck. That was immediately what we started calling it. And so on my desk at CBS for a couple of years, I won back-to-back. I had the Bone Dome Fantasy Football League trophy with the Bone Dome proudly emblazoned.
Yeah, I gotta call timeout. That story you just gave is like not the truth. Like, what's the?
Oh, that's 100% true. He just
Dome.
Yeah, he just called. He put the name of our place as the Bone Dome on his Domino's order, and it stuck. The name of the trophy, and this is even stupider. Nobody could figure. We couldn't decide on the name of a trophy. Nobody was really like stepping up and offering like a real name. So someone jokingly said, "Why don't we name the trophy the Butt Dinger 3000?" That is the name of our trophy that we send out every year. We update with a new plaque. That is, I had that on my desk for 2 years. Little Red Fournette and John Brown's Raiders were my 2 team names.
How much alcohol did you guys drink in college? Like,
I don't know if we have numbers that go that high.
There you go.
Please tell me that you send this trophy to everyone's business, please. And it says like Butt Dinger 3000, like right on the label.
I had it on my desk at the office for 2 years. I don't know if anybody else has put it in such an esteemed place, but
The cat just smacked the microphone. That's the best thing ever.
she had to get past,
so
you know.
much. Your cat's the best.
Yeah, my wife was happy to get it out of the apartment. You know, she didn't once we sent it out, she was perfectly happy getting it out. She's actually in the league too, but you know, she doesn't want a big trophy taking up space.
Yeah. So pick one. Is it DFS, Dynasty, or Redraft? Which one do you prefer to play in?
Probably Dynasty, I guess, or at least Keeper. Like I you know, a straight redraft league is a little less fun than at least a Dynasty or a Keeper, where you know, if your team stinks, which happens occasionally, even to, you know, people who are good, you can just, you know, look ahead to next season. I started out 0-5 in my one league last season, the one where I have the 5 first-round picks, and I lost I think I lost 3 of the 5 games by like 3 points total. It was really stupid. One by 0.1 points. It was just awful. So I was just like, I'm going to trade everyone. Let's go. Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, traded them all. I actually ended up missing the playoffs by about 15 points, which was kind of surprising. But yeah, no, I like being able to, you know, you can do either way. You can try to win this season. You can start tanking. Although in that league we did have a little tanking controversy. People took tanking a little too far this year. So you know, I'm the commissioner of that league. That was, man, being commissioner of a league where people take it seriously is the worst, isn't it?
Yes, it's a thankless job, and like I think tipping your commissioner should always be a thing. Like that's something we should promote more of.
No, nobody ever tips me. They just root against me.
Well, yeah. Speaking of commissioners, one of the best commissioners in all of fantasy football, he's a big fan of the show, tunes in every week. Well, I don't know if he actually does, but I'm just saying that to make myself feel better. Had a very important question he wanted to share with you.
Yeah.
What is it like hanging out with him?
He'll always like blush and like turn away and like, no, that, but like, he is the nicest person in the whole world, Scott Fish. Like, I've met him at, I think, 3 different fantasy sports and gaming association conferences. And it's always such a relief when I see him, because I know, like, I'm not great at like walking up to someone that I only kind of know and like striking up a conversation, but I can just find Scott and I know he'll just talk to everyone at some point and I'll get introduced. So, you know, I just like to like kind of leech off of his good graces. But yeah, Scott is just the best person. He is the best. I mean, everything he does for Scott Fishbowl and for the, you know, associated charities, it's amazing. The work he puts in, you know, being commissioner of so many leagues, especially, you know, beyond Scott Fishbowl, but especially that one, which, you know, 1,200 people I think played in last year. It's just amazing. He's the best.
Just another bald, beautiful dude, man. Just another bald, beautiful dude.
Yep.
So I want to go back to something you said a little earlier when you were talking about being at FIU and being on the part of the newspaper there. Like, so obviously writing and being a part of media, things like that was always something that you had in mind, but did you envision it was going to be in fantasy sports at all?
Oh, I had pretty much, I mean, I was getting out of school around like 2010, 2011. And that was a bad time to want to work in sports media. I mean, especially for me, I'd always been a newspaper guy. You know, I wanted to, like, I grew up reading Dan Le Batard and Greg Cody every day or every, you know, 3 times a week or whatever in the Miami Herald. Like I read the paper regularly as a child. And I started to, you know, get closer to graduation and I realized like, oh, it's going to be really hard to actually find a job right now. You know, we're in the middle of recession. It's hit the media industry especially hard.
And the lockout, 2011 lockout in NFL. I mean, that was a bad time. You're right.
2011 lockout for NFL and NBA. NBA actually lost, you know, a third of the season almost. So, yeah, it wasn't a great time to want to work in sports. And I was actually getting ready to become a teacher. I was like working on my education minor. I was a history major in college because the history department at FIU did not have a grade point average requirement, and the journalism school did. Yeah, I was like, I would have, obviously I would have loved to work in media, and I ended up being super lucky to have had the opportunity, but it wasn't, I had actually kind of given up on that goal, which is, I guess I got really lucky.
Let's kind of keep poking here at this. So
Sure.
You graduated, you're moving on, you're looking for that job. Eventually, we're going to get to CBS here eventually, because that's quite the prestigious spot to be at. Like that's a pretty big deal. But you had to cut your teeth somewhere, right? What was that next stop? What was that foot in the door job? Was it an intern, an unpaid internship, if I may, or how did that process work out?
I've been really lucky. I've never had to do an unpaid internship while I was in school. So before I actually, finished, I got hired at the Miami Herald. So I was the managing editor of the newspaper at FIU. So I was in charge of like the day-to-day production of it, not the content, but the putting it together, getting it sent out to the printers, all that stuff, quality control, everything like that. And I got hired at the Miami Herald. They were looking for a part-time page designer. It was actually only because the Miami Heat, LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh had decided to sign there in the 2010 offseason, and they were making a playoff run. And so if not for that, they probably would have been running 8-page sports sections and they wouldn't have needed an extra person. But because of, LeBron and Chris Bosh, they had a need. And so I got hired like 24 to 30 hours a week, was able to get a job or get a role there working as an online editor as well. This was back when, running a newspaper's website was a lot easier. It was basically just like get the stories on the site, make sure that the covers are right, and you're kind of good. Maybe send out a tweet every once in a while. So I just kind of happened to be in the right place at the right time in a lot of ways. Like if, I came to realize recently, like one of the ways I got lucky was LeBron James and Chris Bosh wanted to play in Miami. If they signed in New York, I probably would be teaching high school history right now. It's just like, it's a weird way to think about it, but it's true. Like that was such a big opportunity for me. And I actually went from the Herald to CBS directly. That was my next job. I've only really had 2 like real grown-up jobs in my life.
That's fascinating. Just that one little break, that one little change in time, and then it could have been high school and kids running around and dealing with that all the time. Or, well, I guess you still are dealing with kids sometimes over at CBS Sports too, right?
Yeah. No, it's it's the kind of thing where like I got the opportunity. I worked really hard. Sorry, I just gesticulated and scared the cat. She's 3 feet away, but she got spooked because I went like that. I took advantage of the opportunities. They asked if I wanted to try to do other things at the Miami Herald. They were happy to give me the opportunity because I was making very little money. And so, in my time there, I got to do some really cool stuff. I got to work on, an NBA finals, the whole section for sports. And I got to do cover designs. And I was working the night that Osama bin Laden was assassinated. And I was working in the news section that night. And I remember it's like 8:30 and we get the notification that, there's going to be an announcement. And that basically just like, we stop everything and basically redesign the entire paper once we know what's actually happening, which I think we kind of got confirmation. I think we started hearing rumors, like the reporters started hearing rumors, but I think what actually confirmed it was The Rock tweeting about it. I don't know if you guys remember this, but The Rock tweeted like something like, just heard some amazing news, proud to be an American. Mm-hmm. And that was like the first, that was like somehow The Rock found out like 4 hours early.
How did The Rock get that scoop? That is like one of the most interesting stories.
Calvin,
I need like a 30 for 30 on that.
Iron Sheik, man. They're in it. They know what's going on.
Yeah. So
Sergeant Slaughter,
yeah, they do have military connections. That's
this is the hard-hitting analysis people tune in for right here.
So yeah, that was. I mean, I was only there for about 10 months, but it was it was kind of a dream come true. As someone who grew up reading the Miami Herald, it was a really awesome experience. Going to. They had this big old building. I mean, not that old. It was only from the 60s, but by Miami standards, something from the 60s is pretty old. I live in a building that's probably older than like all but 5 buildings in Miami, and it's 100 years old. But yeah, we had this big building right on the water in Miami, like overlooking the bay. It was like just an unbelievable view, kind of ostentatious for a newspaper, frankly. Just like overlooking the water, overlooking South Beach. They ended up selling it for to pay off pension obligations to like some Malaysian casino operator, and they've done nothing with the site. It's kind of weird. It's like the last undeveloped property on the Miami coast. So yeah, that was just a really cool experience. And then I got hired at CBS. It was kind of I've been super lucky. I've never, since leaving college, I've never not worked. And I've had some pretty cool opportunities. I'm incredibly lucky.
So continuing through the journey, what were some of your most memorable interviews that you've done?
I realized fairly early on, like when I was in college, I was a beat reporter for our college baseball team, and I went to a Marlins. Actually, I went to a Marlins game 5 years ago. And I was thinking about like, hey, maybe I'll try to do some reporting as part of my fantasy writing. And then I realized what I realized in college, which is I don't like doing interviews because a lot of sports people don't want to talk to reporters and they don't want to answer our stupid questions. And I tried to interview Barry Bonds when he was the Marlins hitting coach, and he was not here for my dumb questions about launch angle and fly ball rate. It just reminded me like, oh yeah, you don't enjoy this part of it. This makes you very nervous talking to people. So that was in college I was primarily like a columnist, and I think that's been more in line with what I've done in fantasy too. But Barry Bonds basically telling me my question was stupid was fun.
Nice.
Did you tell him that you have fought the good fight of him being a better baseball player than King Griffey? You probably should have led with that.
I'm not even sure if he would like that. I don't know if Barry Bonds likes anyone. Actually, it was weird when Barry Bonds was the hitting coach of the Marlins. He was like kind of cuddly. Like he had like really good relationships with all the players, and they would like, he would actually smile sometimes, and it was very surprising. It was not what I expected Barry Bonds to be, but he only did it for the 1 year, and I don't know if he wanted to do it again. So it was probably me asking questions that drove him away. He was like, I'm going back into private life. I can't deal with this.
Major, I heard the groan right there, and I'll just say, like, Chris Towers has now ruined 2 things for me. He's officially ruined Florida Man. That is like taken out away from me now.
Same.
And the stat that he gave about Barry Bonds having more career WAR in Pittsburgh than King Griffey had his whole career. And I went back and was looking into that, and I was like, yeah, gosh, he's right. Barry Bonds is way better than King Griffey. I hate it.
But
It's true.
the numbers don't always tell the truth. Like we have to, like King Griffey is like the guy.
Ken Griffey was cooler.
Yes,
Okay,
for sure.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
He was more fun. Although when I was a kid, I loved Ken Griffey Jr. wagging the bat, and he just like there was so much violence in his swing. So that was my guy. I was a Gary Sheffield guy in the 90s.
Funny enough, I saw a 12-year-old left-hander doing the Gary Sheffield pre-game, pre-pitch where he's wagging the bat that way. Like he was absolutely doing that.
It's basically Barry Bonds,
That's great parenting right there. Whoever kid that is, that's great parenting.
I know.
I want to see a Bubba Trammell swing again. I want to see that Bubble Trammell swing come out.
I want to see some like high school kid doing a Chuck Knobloch. Just the bat all pointed at the ground, basically.
There's some good ones out there. So we talked about this a little bit already, but you mentioned if you hadn't gotten the break that you did, if LeBron and all doesn't come to Miami, bring their talents to South Beach, that you would have been a high school teacher.
Yeah.
But so talk about that. Is that what you went to school for? I mean, were you majoring in education and wanting to? Is that what you think you would be doing if you weren't doing fantasy sports right now?
I think so. Yeah, I've always been a history guy. Like, as a kid, I was obsessed with, learning about history in a way that always made me kind of weird. And I was a history major in college, partially, like I said earlier, it's because you didn't have to have, there was no minimum GPA to be in the history program at FIU. You just had to pass your classes and they would give you the diploma. The journalism school, they had a 2.75 GPA, which is not high. I want to be clear. They did not ask a lot, but I could not meet that standard. And so I took like 5 or 6 journalism classes. I worked at the student newspaper for 4 years. So that was, I was getting a lot of practical experience there. And I think that was just as important as what I would have been learning in classes, not to, denigrate the hard work that journalism professors do. But I was always into history, and it was the kind of thing where it was just like, well, I'm a history major. What am I going to do with that? So I just kind of figured teacher would be a natural place to go. And I think I would have enjoyed it. I think it would be a fun, like I could see like maybe, down the road, maybe I transition to that. I think that could be fulfilling in its own way. But yeah, that probably, I think that would be where I was going. And, it's
how close were you to becoming a teacher? Did you have a school lined up or?
No, I had, when I got hired at the Herald, I was about, I think that semester I would have finished my education minor. And then when I got hired at the Herald, I was essentially working like 2 25 to 30 hour a week jobs between that and the student newspaper. So I had to drop a couple classes. And I just ended up not finishing the education part, which, you don't really need an education certificate to be a teacher, as long as you've got that's something I can always fall back on eventually. But, for right now, I think this is working out okay.
Would you have tried to take that teaching, maybe teach band or something like that, and then try and get that to a duet with Lady Gaga, maybe a little In the Shallows action? Or
do you have that to play?
I might be able to pull up. Calvin's usually the audio guy when it comes to that kind of stuff, because I don't usually get it. But I heard that you've got that passion.
I had a lot of fun. I can do the Bradley Cooper part of Shallows. If you haven't heard it,
do it. Give us
we need it.
Now.
The Lady Gaga part, not nearly as good.
Let's go.
So the Bradley Cooper part is, he's basically just doing like an Eddie Vedder kind of thing. So it's just like, tell me something, girl. Are you happy in this modern world? And then Lady Gaga, she's got an amazing voice. Bradley Cooper is, he's really he's just doing he's really just doing an Eddie Vedder. Maybe a I'm trying to think of some other 90s rock guys, but it's pretty much just
Meatloaf maybe.
Meatloaf, he's a little higher. Meatloaf's got a bit of a higher pitch to him. I don't think I could do Meatloaf. Well, I do love Bad Out of Hell, great album.
Right.
Maybe like Bon Jovi, where you can kind of talk your way through a Bon Jovi song a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, like on the lower register. Bon Jovi, he does like the whoa. I can't. That again. I don't think Bradley Cooper can do that part. I think he can do the Johnny used to work by the docks part, but I think once you get to the chorus, he's gonna have to pass it off to Lady Gaga.
Yeah, let's bring it back to sports. Enough Gaga for me in one conversation. But what are some of the lessons you've learned through like fantasy sports?
I think a big part of it is just, I think maybe patience. Especially as an analyst, you want to overreact to the things that you see so much, and I think there's value in that as well. You can't just sit there and wait until week 5 of the NFL season to have an opinion. But there's always value in kind of taking a step back and saying, okay, what happened in week 1 happened. But it's not, we know every year there's going to be some guys who have really big week 1s, and it's not reflective of what they're going to do moving forward. So, having that constantly, I mean, I'm going on I think my 12th season covering the NFL this year, 11th baseball season this year, so you're constantly hit with that, like, take a step back, take a breath, don't overreact. You don't have to have your immediate, etched in stone opinion. And that's especially been like this baseball season. Now that I'm writing and podcasting and doing video full time again for the first time in 5 years, the first week of the baseball season, I was like, I want to write, but I don't want to, like, there's nothing to write about yet. Basically, it was like, I can't, I just had to kind of force myself to, like, calm down. It's okay. It's week 1. The hard part is that's when there are more people looking, it's going to tail off steadily, but it's always, I think one thing that writing about sports and especially fantasy is it's always better to take a step back and make sure you've got a smart thing to say than just saying something. And it's often very hard. It's easy to get caught up in the moment, but I think that's a valuable life lesson too.
So how do relationships within the industry tie into that for you? Who are some of the guys that you've worked with along the way that have helped you along the way, and how important are those relationships to you?
Yeah, it's an industry. I mean, because it's a fairly small industry, there are a lot of people who know each other. And one thing I have found in the fantasy industry is it's very competitive. There are a lot of people trying to get, very few jobs. And, but there are more people who are willing to help, someone who's coming up or someone who's got questions than the opposite. And, obviously I've worked with a ton of really great people in that regard. And I've learned a lot from Jamie and Dave and Heath and Scott White and, Al Melchior and Nando DeFino, who we used to work with. But, and Ben Gretsch, who worked with us for a couple of years. I've learned a lot from all those people. And, as far as like specifics, I mean, just in terms of like a person that I can like reach out to, Scott Fish is absolutely up there. And, he's it's kind of like knowing him kind of helps other people. And it's the same thing with like Nando DeFino, if you're who runs the fantasy department at The Athletic and just super great guy. If you're around him at like an FSGA conference, you're just going to meet everyone. And so just because he knows everyone, he's friendly with everyone. So those, hanging out with those guys has been a big help as far as like getting to know people. But, God, I feel like anytime I have a question, like I try to do some like, at least, second level statistical analysis. And I often find I'm, butting up against the upper limits of my skill set when I try to do that, because I took statistics 101 in college, and we had a midterm on Halloween, and the class was at 9:00 because I took night classes that semester, and I went to a party instead and dropped it and never took it again. So I'm definitely, when I'm like, I've got a lot of Excel spreadsheets and I've learned some functions, but there are definitely a lot of times when I'm trying to do something and I just have to kind of give up and just go to Twitter and say, hey, can somebody walk me through this? Can somebody just take my hand and tell me how to do this so I can seem smart? And there's never a shortage of people who are willing to do that in the fantasy industry. So, yeah.
Yeah. And along those same lines, any advice that you would give, those who are trying to make it within the industry?
It's really, really hard to stand out in an industry where there are so many people trying to get in. So I would say, like I'm no longer in charge of the hiring process, but when I was, and then people would ask me, I would say like, find a way to stand out, whether that's becoming just like dynamite on camera, whether that's having a coding background and knowing how to, create tools that people can use or, do, kind of unique analysis. If you're like, you can, something that I talk about with regards to like fantasy baseball drafting or fantasy football drafting as well, that I think applies is like the analogy I'll make is like this year in fantasy baseball, everyone was pushing pitchers up their draft boards. It was like 33 starting pitchers were being drafted in the top 100. 3 years ago, it was 25. And so everybody wanted high-end starting pitchers. And the way I put it was like, if 9 out of the 12 people in your league are trying to draft starting pitchers, you're competing with 3/4 of your league for the same assets and trying to win against 9 people who are doing the same thing that you are. If you do something different, you only have to be you have to be better than everyone, but you only have 2 other people or 3 other people competing for the same players as you. And so I think, that's kind of the way I would look at it when you're trying to get into a field is if you can find a unique way to stand out, that's going to help you. That's going to make it easier for you to get a job, because if everyone is writing and doing a podcast, you have to be better than everyone, or at least you have to be better than everyone who gets the opportunity to interview. But if you're doing your own unique thing, and if you can carve out your own niche, that's much more attractive, because, that makes you stand out. And it's a lot harder to be better than everyone at a couple of things than it is to be better than a few people at one thing, I guess is the way I would put it.
Great advice.
Yeah. So I think before we get out of here, Chris, go ahead and why don't you just plug like everything you're working on? I mean, I know like you guys have so much going on at CBS and you have your hands in a lot of different pots, but just where, if everybody wants to support you during this time, like where can we find everything that you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing, if you want to support Chris Towers specifically, the Fantasy Football Today newsletter, cbssports.com/newsletters. That's kind of my baby during football season. I was sending that out 7 times a week. I'm still doing it twice a week. Trying to come up with unique content throughout the off season and in season. And that's, if you wanted to, the best way to tell my bosses that I should keep my job would be to subscribe to the Fantasy Football Today newsletter. So if you don't want me to keep my job, obviously you can unsubscribe, but please don't do that. Just subscribe. Open it once a week. You don't even have to read it. It's fine. Although I think you should read it. I think it's pretty good. Other than that, Fantasy Baseball Today podcast, Fantasy Football Today podcast. I'm on both of them. We'll be doing our draft show on CBS Sports HQ at the end of the month. We'll be on Twitch at CBS Sports HQ doing live analysis of that. So, we've got a lot going on. I'm covering both baseball and football. Kind of the only person in our team with my hands in both, which is, there's no off season, which is nice and also a little exhausting.
Well, Major, you and I, we're going to have to rethink this bald guy beard thing if we're looking to stand out, because I don't know if it's going to work for us.
You can just go a longer beard. I just trimmed mine, so.
I think we go back with the handlebars here. So I just want to leave with this. We are happy in this modern world. We do not need more, because Chris Towers has helped us with what we're searching for.
There you go. It's beautiful, man.
For Tara, for Major, for Calvin, and for Chris. I'm Matt Donnelly, and this is the ViperCast, and we're gone.